The wind screamed across the frozen plains of Valora 7 like a living thing made of ice and rage. Velnara tried to shield her child with her body, but the cold was everywhere. It cut through her thermal suit as if the expensive fabric was nothing more than paper. Her crystalline exoskeleton, normally so beautiful when it caught the light, was turning dull and gray. That was the first sign of cold death for her people. She looked down at Cree, her little one, and her hearts broke. Both of them, the dual organs that kept Threnali alive, seemed to stop beating at the same moment. Cree's shell was cracking, not the normal shedding that young ones went through as they grew. These were fractures, deep lines that split across his small body like lightning frozen in crystal. The soft glow that came from inside every Threnali, the bioluminescence that marked them as living beings, was fading in her child. The light was going out. "I'm sorry," Velnara whispered, though her voice was lost in the wind. She wasn't even sure if Cree could hear her anymore. "I'm so sorry, little light. They shouldn't have been out here." Velnara was a scientist, yes, but she was also a mother who made a terrible mistake. The environmental readings had said the weather would hold for another 6 hours. The forecast had been clear. She had only needed 45 minutes to collect her ice core samples from the glacier, 2 kilometers north of the research station. Cree had been so excited to come with her, to see where his mother worked, to be a big helper, as he called it. Then the storm hit. Not the gentle snow the forecast predicted, but a Category 5 blizzard that appeared out of nowhere. The meteorology team would later discover that 2 weather systems had merged in an unprecedented way. But that wouldn't matter to Velnara and Cree if they died out here. Their thermal suits had failed within the first 10 minutes. Ice crystals, so small they were nearly invisible, had gotten into the heating units. The delicate human-made technology couldn't handle the extreme conditions. The suits were rated for -40 degrees Celsius. The storm had dropped the temperature to -80. Velnara had activated her emergency beacon immediately. She knew the protocols. She knew a rescue team would be dispatched. She also knew they wouldn't arrive in time. Threnali could survive cold better than many species, but they had their limits. At -50 degrees, their bodies began to shut down. At -60, they died. Cree had stopped shivering 5 minutes ago. That was bad. Velnara had learned enough about cold exposure to know that when a body stopped fighting, death was close. She pulled her child tighter against her chest, using her larger body to create whatever warmth she could. It wasn't enough. She could feel her own systems failing, her movements becoming sluggish, her thoughts growing fuzzy. "Tell me about the warm pools again," Cree whispered. His voice so small, Velnara wanted to cry, but the cold had frozen even her tears. "The warm pools of home," she began, forcing the words out. "Where the water is heated by the planet's core. Where we would swim when you were just a tiny thing. Do you remember?" "I remember," Cree said. "It was warm. So warm," Velnara agreed. "And we'll go back there." I promise, it was a lie. She knew it was a lie. But what else could a mother say to her dying child? Through the white chaos of the blizzard, through the wall of snow that blocked out everything else, Velnara thought she saw something. A shape, moving, coming toward them. She tried to focus, but her vision was failing along with everything else. Was it a rescue team? No, it was just one figure. Too tall to be Threnali, too solid to be Quellan. The shape moved through the storm like it was just a minor inconvenience instead of a lethal wall of frozen death. The figure got closer. Velnara could see details now. It was wearing a thermal suit, but the suit was torn in places. She could see exposed skin. In this temperature, exposed skin should mean immediate death. But the figure kept moving, kept walking toward them with steady, determined steps. Then the figure was there, dropping to its knees beside them. Velnara saw the face and recognized the species. Human. It was the maintenance engineer from the station. She had seen him before, but never spoke to him directly. What was his name? Jiho. Yes, that was it. "I've got you," Jiho said, his voice steady despite the cold. "Despite everything, I've got you both." He was already moving, working with quick efficiency. His hands should have been frozen, useless. Instead, they worked with speed and precision. He pulled off his outer thermal layer and wrapped it around Cree. Then he did something that made Velnara think the cold had finally broken her mind. He tore open his inner suit, ripping the fabric to expose his chest, and pressed Cree against his bare skin. "No," Velnara tried to say. "You'll die. You'll freeze. Not before I get you both warm," Jiho said. His teeth were chattering, clicking together rapidly. but his eyes were clear, focused, very much alive. Velnara watched in amazement as Kree's cracking shell stabilized. The fractures stopped spreading. More impossibly, the dim glow inside her child began to brighten. Just a little, but it was there. Life coming back. How? Velnara managed to ask. Humans run hot, Jiho said simply. He was doing something with his communicator, calling for help. Rescue team is 20 minutes out. That's too long for you to wait in this cold. 20 minutes. An eternity. Velnara knew she wouldn't last 20 more minutes. Neither would Kree, even with the warmth from Jiho's body. She started to say this. Started to tell him to just save Kree and leave her, but Jiho wasn't listening. He was stripping off more of his suit, down to just basic underlayers that provided almost no protection at all. Then he wrapped himself around both of them. His body, impossibly warm in the killing cold, surrounded them. Created a pocket of survival in the middle of the storm. Velnara felt warmth for the first time since the blizzard hit. Real warmth. Life-giving warmth. Stay with me, Jiho said, his voice vibrating through his chest where Kree was pressed. I need you to stay awake. Tell me about your research. What were you collecting out here? Velnara tried to answer. Her mind was fuzzy, but she forced herself to focus, to talk, to stay conscious, because this human, this being who should be dead from the cold, was asking her to. And somehow, impossibly, it seemed like they might actually survive this. In the distance, through the howling wind, she thought she heard the sound of approaching engines. The rescue team. Coming. Maybe they would make it after all. Maybe the human would save them. This strange, warm human who walked through killing cold like it was nothing. Jiho's skin had turned red from the cold. Not the blue-gray that meant death, but a bright, angry red that covered every bit of exposed flesh. Velnara had never seen anything like it. She had studied xenobiology for years, had learned about dozens of species and their adaptations, but this was beyond her understanding. The human should be dead. Every law of biology she knew said he should be dead. Instead, he was talking. His voice shook from the violent shivering that racked his whole body, but he kept talking. He asked her questions about her homeworld, about the research station, about what Kree liked to eat. Anything to keep her mind working, to keep her conscious. Ice worms, Velnara heard herself say. Her own voice sounded strange, distant. Kree loves ice worms. They're not really worms. They're more like your earth slugs, but they live in frozen environments and they taste sweet. Sounds good, Jiho said through his chattering teeth. Better than the protein bars they feed us at the station. Kree made a small sound against Jiho's chest. Velnara's heart jumped. Her child was responding. Still alive, still fighting. She looked down and saw that Kree's glow had strengthened. Not much, but enough to see clearly. The cracks in his shell had stopped spreading completely. How are you doing this? Velnara asked. She needed to understand. Needed to know how this was possible. Doing what? Jiho's question seemed genuine, not sarcastic. Not dying. You're exposed to -80 degrees. Your suit is torn. You're barely clothed. You should have frozen solid the moment you removed your outer layers. Jiho laughed. It was a short, sharp sound that turned into a cough. Humans are tough, he said. We come from a tough planet. Earth taught us how to survive things that should kill us. Velnara knew about Earth. Every species that joined the galactic community learned about the homeworlds of other members. Earth was classified as a Class 9 death world. Extreme temperature variations, dangerous weather patterns, predators that hunted in packs, diseases that jumped between species, tectonic activity that could destroy entire regions. Most civilized species evolved on calmer worlds, safer worlds. Humans evolved learning to survive constant threats. But knowing the classification and seeing the results were two different things. Velnara was watching those results now. Jiho's body was burning through energy at a rate that should be impossible. She could feel the heat coming off him. His core temperature had to be dangerously low by now, but he was still conscious. Still talking, still keeping them alive. Tell me about Kree, Jiho said. How old is he? 3 cycles, Velnara answered. That's about 5 of your years. He's curious, smart, always asking questions. He wanted to be a scientist like me. Wanted? Jiho caught the past tense. He still will be. We're going to get through this, you can't know that. Yes, I can. Jiho's voice was firm despite the shivering. Rescue team is 17 minutes out. I can last 17 minutes. So can you. So can Kree. We just have to hold on. Velnara wanted to believe him. His confidence was strange, almost unnerving. He spoke with such certainty as if his will alone could keep them alive, as if his determination could override biology and physics and the killing cold. "Your beacon," Velnara said, remembering. "How did you get here?" "The rescue team hasn't arrived yet. How were you close enough to reach us?" "I was repairing a communications array," Jiho explained. "Sector 7, about half a kilometer from here. The storm knocked it out and we needed it functional for the automated weather stations. I was just finishing up when I caught your emergency signal." "You came alone? In a Category 5 blizzard?" "The repair couldn't wait. And yeah, I came alone. Everyone else was smart enough to stay inside." Velnara processed this. He had been out in this storm already, working, repairing equipment, in conditions that would send any sensible being running for shelter. "You're insane," she said. "Probably," Jiho agreed. "My supervisor tells me that at least once a week. Says I take too many risks. Don't know when to quit." He readjusted his grip on both of them, pulling them tighter against his body. "But if I'd waited, if I'd been sensible, I wouldn't have been here when you needed help. So maybe being a little crazy isn't so bad." Kree stirred again. This time he actually moved, shifting against Jiho's chest. "Warm," the child whispered. "So warm." "That's right, little guy," Jiho said. His voice had softened, become gentle. "You just stay warm. We're going to get you home." Velnara felt something break inside her. Not her body, but something deeper. This human, this stranger, was holding her dying child against his own skin, was risking his life, his health, everything for beings he barely knew. She had seen Jiho around the station before, had passed him in corridors, had maybe exchanged polite greetings a handful of times. They weren't friends. They weren't even colleagues, not really. He worked maintenance. She worked research. Different worlds within the same facility. And yet here he was, freezing to death to keep them warm. Why? The question came out before she could stop it. "Why are you doing this?" Jiho was quiet for a moment. The wind howled around them, but inside their small pocket of warmth there was a strange calm. "Someone had to," he finally said. "And I was here. So it had to be me? You could die?" "Yeah," Jiho admitted. "I could. Probably going to lose some toes to frostbite at the very least. But Kree gets to grow up, gets to become that scientist. That seems like a fair trade." It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair at all. But Velnara didn't have the strength to argue. She just held onto her child and let the human hold onto both of them. Time became strange. Velnara couldn't tell if seconds or hours were passing. Everything was cold and warm at the same time, terrible and miraculous. She could feel Jiho's violent shivering getting worse. His teeth chattered so hard she worried they might break. But his grip never loosened. His body never stopped radiating that impossible heat. Then there were lights. Bright lights cutting through the blizzard. The sound of engines. Voices shouting over the wind. The rescue team had arrived. Hands reached for them. Velnara saw other humans and some Quellan, and even a Dravik bundled in extreme cold gear. They were pulling her away from Jiho, wrapping her in thermal blankets, checking her vital signs. She tried to hold on to Kree, but someone gently took him from her arms. "No," she tried to shout. "My child." "He's safe," a voice said. A human voice, deep and calm. "We've got him. He's alive. You both are." Velnara caught one last glimpse of Jiho before they loaded her into the rescue vehicle. He was still sitting in the snow, surrounded by the rescue team. His lips were blue now. Ice had formed in his hair and eyebrows. He looked like a statue carved from frozen flesh. But his eyes were still open, still aware. He saw her looking and managed a small smile. Then someone wrapped him in blankets and she couldn't see him anymore. Inside the warm vehicle, wrapped in emergency thermal gear, Velnara felt her body slowly coming back to life. Her thoughts cleared. Her heart beat stronger. Across from her, Kree was bundled in heated blankets, his shell slowly returning to its normal crystalline shine. The cracks were still there, but they had stopped growing. He would heal. They would both heal, because a human had walked into a blizzard that should have killed him, because a human had stripped off his protection to share his warmth, because a human had decided that two aliens he barely knew were worth dying for. Velnara didn't understand humans, but she was beginning to think she needed to. The medical facility was bright and warm and everything the blizzard wasn't. Velnara woke up in a recovery bed with heated blankets wrapped around her. The first thing she did was look for Kree. The second thing she did was panic when she didn't see him immediately. He's in the next room, a gentle voice said. Velnara turned to see a Quellan medic standing beside her bed. The amphibious being's skin was a calming blue-green color. Your child is stable. Recovering well. The cracks in his shell will heal completely. He's going to be fine. Relief hit Velnara so hard that she had to close her eyes. Kree was safe. Her little light would grow up after all. I want to see him, she said. Soon, the medic promised. We need to finish checking your condition first. You were very close to cold death yourself. They ran tests. Many tests. Scanned her shell, checked her organ function, measured her internal temperature. Everything was done with careful efficiency. Through it all, Velnara kept thinking about Jiho. About the human who saved them. The human, Velnara said to the medic. The one who found us. Is he alive? The Quellan's skin color shifted to a troubled purple. Alive, yes. But his condition is concerning. He's in the intensive care unit. They're still working on him. What's wrong? Severe hypothermia. His core body temperature dropped to 32 degrees Celsius. Frostbite on his hands and feet. Metabolic exhaustion. By all reasonable medical understanding, he should be in a coma. But he's conscious. Talking. Asking about you and your child. The medic's skin color shifted again, this time to an orange that signaled confusion. I don't understand humans. Their biology doesn't make sense. 3 days passed before Velnara was allowed to see Jiho. They let her visit Kree first, and she spent hours just holding her child, feeling his warmth, watching his shell slowly repair itself. The cracks were healing from the inside out, filling in with new crystalline growth. He would have scars, but he would live. When she finally entered Jiho's room, she almost didn't recognize him. He was sitting up in bed smiling at something on a data pad. His hands were wrapped in bandages. His feet were elevated and also wrapped. He looked tired but very much alive. Velnara, he said when he saw her. His smile got bigger. How's Kree? Alive because of you, Velnara said. She didn't know what else to say. How did you thank someone for giving back your child's life? Good, that's good. Jiho set down the data pad. I'm glad. He's a tough little guy. The medics say you lost 2 toes. Yeah. Jiho didn't seem bothered by this. Could have been worse. Could have lost all 10. Or my fingers. I need my fingers for work. Velnara stared at him. You lost parts of your body. Permanent damage. And you're joking about it? What else should I do? Cry? They're just toes. I've got 8 more. Jiho shrugged. Besides, they're talking about getting me some prosthetics. Might end up with better toes than I started with. This attitude was incomprehensible to Velnara. Threnalia took injuries seriously. The loss of any body part was treated as a tragedy, mourned and grieved. But Jiho acted like it was nothing, like he'd just lost a piece of equipment he could replace. I don't understand you, Velnara said. I don't understand humans, that's fair. We're a weird species. Jiho gestured to the chair beside his bed. Want to sit? You look like you could use the rest. Velnara sat. They talked for a while, mostly about nothing important. Station gossip, Kree's recovery, the weather forecast, which was now more accurate after Jiho's repairs to the communications array. It was pleasant, normal. As if Jiho hadn't nearly died 3 days ago. Eventually, Velnara had to ask, how did you survive? The medics are confused. They say your biology doesn't follow normal patterns. Humans evolved to survive, Jiho explained. Earth was hard on us. Really hard. Hot summers, freezing winters, predators, diseases, natural disasters. We had to adapt or die. So we adapted. He held up his bandaged hands. Our bodies can survive core temperatures that would kill most species. We can go into a sort of low-power mode when we get too cold. Slows everything down but keeps the important parts working. And we can burn through energy really fast when we need to generate heat. But the pain, Velnara said. The cold must have been agonizing. It was, Jiho admitted. His casual tone dropped a bit. It really was. But pain is just information. It tells you something is wrong. Doesn't mean you have to stop. You can push through it if you have to. Velnara thought about this. About a species that could feel pain and just ignore it, keep going, keep functioning. It seemed wrong somehow. Pain was a warning. You were supposed to listen to warnings. We owe you a life debt, Velnara said. In my culture, that's sacred. We can never repay what you did, but we'll spend our lives trying. You don't owe me anything, Jiho said firmly. I did what anyone would do. No, Velnara said. That's not true. I've been thinking about it. Asking around. A Quellan couldn't have survived the cold. A Dravik wouldn't have even tried. Most Threnali would have frozen before they reached us. Only humans could have done what you did. Jiho looked uncomfortable. Maybe, but that doesn't mean you owe me. I was there. I had the ability to help. So I helped. That's all. A new voice interrupted them. That's not all, and you know it. They both turned to see another human standing in the doorway. She was older than Jiho, with gray in her hair and the confident bearing of someone used to authority. Sorry to interrupt. I'm Dr. Yuna, head of Human Medical Services here at the station. Doctor, Jiho said, suddenly sitting up straighter. I'm following all the recovery protocols, I swear. I know you are, Dr. Yuna said with a small smile. I'm not here to check on you. Well, not only to check on you. I'm here because the station administration has requested a briefing. About what happened. About human capabilities. She looked at Velnara. They've invited the science teams. I thought you might want to attend. Velnara definitely wanted to attend. The briefing room was full. Scientists from a dozen different species crowded the space. Velnara saw Quellans and Draviks and Threnali and others she didn't immediately recognize. Everyone was curious. Everyone had heard about the impossible rescue. Dr. Yuna stood at the front of the room with displays showing medical data, evolutionary charts, and comparative biology reports. She spoke clearly and without any attempt to soften the information. Humans evolved on what we classify as a Class 9 death world, she began. Earth experiences temperature variations from -60 to +50 degrees Celsius in extreme environments. Our bodies adapted to handle this through several mechanisms. The displays showed diagrams of human physiology. Velnara watched, fascinated. First, our thermoregulation is far more robust than most species. We can survive core body temperatures as low as 28 degrees before death occurs. We remain conscious down to approximately 32 degrees. This is 10 to 15 degrees lower than most galactic species. Murmurs filled the room. Dr. Yuna continued. Second, we have multiple heat generation methods. Shivering thermogenesis, where our muscles rapidly contract to produce heat. Brown fat activation, which burns energy directly into warmth. And a high metabolic rate that we can push even higher in crisis situations. More displays appeared. Charts showing energy consumption, heat output, survival times in various conditions. Third, we have what we call our diving reflex. When exposed to extreme cold, blood flow redirects from our extremities to our core, protecting vital organs. This is why Jiho lost his toes but survived. His body sacrificed the parts it could afford to lose to keep his heart and brain alive. The room was silent now. Every being present was staring at the data with expressions ranging from amazement to horror. Finally, Dr. Yuna said, humans have an extremely high pain tolerance and stress response. We can remain functional and make rational decisions under conditions that would incapacitate most species. This is not because we don't feel pain, we do, but our evolution required us to keep moving, keep functioning even when injured or suffering. She paused, letting the information sink in. In summary, Jiho survived because human beings are very hard to kill. We evolved to be survivors. It's what we do. Velnara looked around the room at the other species. She saw the same realization on everyone's faces. Humans were dangerous, not because they were aggressive or warlike, but because they were built to survive things that would destroy anyone else. And Jiho had used that survival ability to save her child. Velnara couldn't stop thinking about what Dr. Yuna had said. Humans were built to survive. That explained how Jiho had lived through the blizzard, but it didn't explain why he had walked into it in the first place. Survival instincts should make a being avoid danger, not run toward it. She started asking questions. There were only 5 humans at the research station, and Velnara made a point to talk to all of them. She needed to understand. The first was Daehyun, a xenobiologist who worked in the lab next to hers. She found him studying cell samples under a microscope. When she asked about human rescue behavior, he sat back with a thoughtful expression. It's cultural, Daehyun explained, but it's also kind of instinctive. Humans are social creatures. We survived on Earth by working together, protecting each other. Somewhere deep in our psychology, we're programmed to help members of our group. But I'm not part of your group, Velnara pointed out. Neither is Kree, we're not even the same species. Doesn't matter, Daehyun said. Humans have this thing where we expand our definition of group really easily. You live at the same station? You're part of the group. You're in trouble? You're someone who needs help. That makes you part of the group that deserves protection. He pulled up some files on his datapad. Back on Earth, we had specialized jobs for people who did nothing but rescue others. Lifeguards at beaches, firefighters who ran into burning buildings, search and rescue teams who climbed mountains or dove underwater to find lost people. It wasn't just their job. It was their calling. Belnara looked at the images Daehyun showed her. Humans pulling others from water. Humans carrying injured people from collapsed structures. Humans risking everything to save strangers. This is normal for your species? She asked. More normal than you'd think, Daehyun confirmed. Next, Belnara spoke with Hyejin, one of the engineers. They met in the station's common area during a meal period. Hyejin was eating something that smelled strange, but apparently was a traditional food from her region of Earth. Jiho's not unusual, Hyejin said when Belnara asked about the rescue. Well, he's a bit more reckless than most. Gets himself in trouble because he won't quit on a task even when he should. But the basic instinct? To help someone in danger? That's pretty standard for humans. Even at the risk of your own life? Especially then, Hyejin said. Look, I know it seems crazy to other species, but humans have this thing. We explore. We push boundaries. We go to places that might kill us just to see what's there. We climbed the highest mountains on Earth long before we had good equipment. We sailed across oceans not knowing what was on the other side. We went to space when we barely understood how to get there. She gestured around them, and we came out here, to the galaxy, even though we were the newest species and everyone else had 1,000 years more experience than us. It's just what we do. We see a challenge, we face it. We see someone in trouble, we help them. Belnara met with Taeyang next, the security officer. He was in the station's small gym, running on a machine that simulated movement. Even as he ran, he answered her questions. Military tradition, Taeyang said between breaths. No one left behind. That's the rule. You don't abandon your people ever. Doesn't matter how dangerous it is to go back for them. Doesn't matter if it would be logical to cut your losses. You go back. You bring them home. But we're not your people, Belnara said. Taeyang slowed his running and looked at her directly. Everyone is our people now. That's how we think. Used to be it was just our tribe, our nation, our species. But we're in the galaxy now, met dozens of other species. And we've decided that if you're sentient, if you're alive and thinking and feeling, then you're someone worth protecting. You're someone worth saving. After talking to the humans at the station, Belnara couldn't let it go. She dove into the galactic databases searching for information. What she found changed everything. The data was clear. Over the 50 years since humans had joined the galactic community, they had established a pattern. Humans volunteered for dangerous assignments at rates 3 times higher than any other species. Human rescue workers had saved more alien lives than the next 5 species combined. In every disaster, every emergency, every crisis, humans were there. Often they were the first to arrive and the last to leave. The statistics were remarkable and troubling. Belnara looked at casualty reports and felt her heart break. Humans died doing this, regularly. They ran into burning ships to pull out survivors and died when the ships exploded. They stayed behind to help others evacuate and got caught in station collapses. They pushed alien children out of the path of falling debris and took the impact themselves. They died. And they kept volunteering, kept showing up, kept running toward danger. Belnara found incident reports from dozens of worlds. A human named Min had drowned saving a Quellan child from a flooded habitat. A human named Bora had died from toxic atmosphere exposure after giving her breathing equipment to an injured Dravik. A human named Suho had been crushed by debris while holding up a support beam so others could escape. The list went on and on. Names and dates and brief descriptions of heroism that ended in death. Belnara read them all, every single one. She owed them that much. These humans had died protecting species they barely knew, on worlds that weren't their own, for reasons that made no logical sense, except it did make sense. In a strange, beautiful, terrifying way, it made perfect sense. Humans had survived by being the most stubborn, persistent, caring species in the galaxy. They had looked at a universe full of danger and decided to make it safer, not just for themselves, but for everyone. Belnara made a new file. She compiled everything she had learned. The physical data from Dr. Yuna, the cultural information from her conversations, the historical record from the databases. She built a comprehensive picture of humanity, not as individuals like Jiho or Daehyun or Hyejin, but as a species, as a people. She was still working on this when Kree was released from medical care. Her child was almost completely healed now. The cracks in his shell had filled in, leaving thin lines that would fade with time. His glow was bright and steady. He was healthy, alive. The first thing Kree wanted to do was visit Jiho. They found the human in the station's recreation area. He was walking with a cane, his bandaged feet carefully supported by modified boots. When he saw Kree, his face lit up with genuine joy. "Hey, little guy," Jiho said, "and look at you. All healed up." Kree ran to him, and Jiho knelt down carefully to be at the child's level. Kree's shell glowed brighter, the Threnali equivalent of a huge smile. "You saved me," Kree said in his high-pitched voice. "You were warm." "I'm glad I could help," Jiho said. He was smiling too, a warm human expression that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Can humans adopt aliens?" Kree asked suddenly. Both Velnara and Jiho looked surprised. "What?" they said at the same time. "I want Jiho to be my second parent," Kree announced. "He saved my life. That makes him family. Right, Mother?" Velnara didn't know what to say. In Threnali culture, life debts did create family bonds, but she hadn't expected Kree to take it quite so literally. She looked at Jiho, who seemed equally confused. "That's very sweet," Jiho said carefully, "but I think your mother is enough family for you." "You can both be my family," Kree said, as if it was obvious. "Mother is mother. You're the warm one, that's what I'll call you." "My warm one?" Jiho looked at Velnara helplessly. She found herself laughing. It felt good to laugh after everything they'd been through. "I think you're stuck with the title," she told Jiho. "When Kree decides something, he doesn't change his mind easily." "Stubborn, huh?" Jiho said. "I can relate to that." They spent the afternoon together, the three of them. Velnara watched Jiho interact with her child and saw something she hadn't noticed before: gentleness, patience, care. This human who could survive conditions that would kill most beings was so careful with Kree, so attentive. Humans weren't just survivors, they were protectors. And that made all the difference. The invitation arrived 3 months after the blizzard. The Galactic Council wanted Velnara to speak at a special hearing. The subject was listed as Death World Species Integration and Associated Concerns. Velnara knew what that really meant. Some members of the Council were worried about humans, about their rapid expansion through the galaxy, about their reckless behavior and concerning patterns. Velnara accepted the invitation immediately. She had something to say, and the Council was going to hear it. The Council chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Velnara had never been anywhere so grand. Floating platforms held delegates from worlds she'd only read about. Translation devices hummed quietly, converting thousands of languages into something everyone could understand. The weight of galactic politics pressed down on her, but she stood straight. She had Kree beside her, and that gave her courage. A Quellan administrator called the session to order. "We are gathered to discuss concerns about human expansion into galactic space," the administrator announced. "Several member species have raised questions about human behavior patterns that differ significantly from established norms. We have invited Dr. Velnara of the Threnali people to provide expert testimony as a xenobiologist." Velnara stepped forward to the speaker's platform. She looked out at the sea of alien faces, so many different species all watching her. She activated the holographic display she had prepared. "Thank you for inviting me," she began. "I am indeed a xenobiologist. I've studied adaptation and evolution across multiple species, but today I'm not here as a scientist. I'm here as a mother." The display shifted, showing a recording from the blizzard, security footage from Velnara's suit camera, uploaded automatically to station servers. The Council watched as the storm raged, watched as Kree's shell began to crack, watched as the small child's light began to fade. "This is my son Kree," Velnara said. Her voice was steady, but she felt the emotion underneath. 3 months ago he was dying. We both were, caught in a blizzard that we should never have survived. The recording showed Jiho appearing through the snow, showed him wrapping Kree in his thermal layer, showed him tearing his suit open to press the dying child against his bare chest. "A human named Jiho saved us," Velnara continued. "He walked through conditions that registered at -80 degrees Celsius. He removed his protective gear. He exposed himself to temperatures that should have killed him within minutes. By every logical calculation, his action was suicide. He should have died trying to save us. The recording showed Jiho's red skin, his violent shivering, the ice forming on his body. Several delegates made sounds of distress. Some covered their eyes, but he didn't die, Vilnara said. He survived long enough for rescue. And so did we. Because humans are built to survive impossible things. She displayed the medical data next. Dr. Yuna's charts and graphs showing human physiology in clear scientific terms. Humans evolved on what they classify as a death world, a planet that tried to kill them in countless ways. They adapted. They survived. They thrived. And now they're bringing those adaptations to the galaxy. A delegate stood up, a Dravik with red-gold scales. This is precisely our concern, the Dravik said. Humans are dangerous, too resilient, too aggressive. They take risks that no sensible species would consider. They expand too quickly, claim too much territory, insert themselves into situations that don't concern them. Vilnara expected this. She had prepared for it. You're right, she said, and saw surprise on many faces. Humans are dangerous. Their biology is extraordinary. Their culture encourages risk-taking and exploration. They do insert themselves into situations that don't directly concern them. She paused, then brought up new data, her compiled research. So I investigated. I wanted to understand why humans behave this way. What I found changed everything. The display showed statistics, rescue rates, casualty reports, volunteer numbers, all the data Vilnara had collected over months of research. In the 50 years since humans joined the galactic community, they have saved more alien lives than any other species, Vilnara stated. They volunteer for dangerous assignments at rates 300% higher than the galactic average. In every disaster, every emergency, every crisis, humans are there, often first to arrive, always last to leave. She brought up the names. The long list of names. These are humans who died protecting other species. Men who drowned saving a Quellan child. Bora who gave her breathing equipment to an injured Dravik. Suho who held up a support beam so others could escape. The list goes on. Hundreds of names. Hundreds of humans who saw someone in danger and decided that being's life was worth more than their own. The chamber was silent. Vilnara continued. You say humans are aggressive. I say they're protective. You say they're reckless. I say they're brave. You say they expand too quickly. I say they go where they're needed. She looked directly at the Dravik who had spoken. Humans are dangerous. You're absolutely right. They're dangerous to threats. They're dangerous to injustice. They're dangerous to suffering. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them at every turn, and instead of becoming cruel, they became compassionate. They learned to run down prey through sheer endurance, and they used that endurance to search for survivors. They learned to survive deadly cold, and they used that survival to warm dying children. Vilnara gestured to Kree, who stepped forward. Her child's shell caught the light, the thin scars from his fractures still visible. My son is alive because a human decided his life mattered. Not because Jiho knew us. Not because he owed us anything. Not because there was any reward or recognition waiting. He saved us because that's what humans do. They save people. She deactivated the display and spoke from her heart. The galaxy doesn't need to fear humanity because they're strong. The galaxy should welcome humanity because they're kind. Because when the blizzards come, when disasters strike, when the universe shows its cruelty, humans run toward the danger while others run away. They run toward it and they don't stop until everyone is safe. Kree's voice rang out high and clear in the vast chamber. The warm one saved me. Humans save people. That's what they do. The vote came 3 hours later after much debate and discussion. The motion to restrict human expansion through the galaxy failed overwhelmingly. Instead, the council passed something unexpected. A new resolution, proposed by a coalition of species who had been saved by human rescuers over the years. Humanity was formally recognized for their contributions to galactic safety. Earth was invited to establish permanent human disaster response teams on critical worlds. The Council requested that human rescue methods be studied and taught to other species. Humans were given special authorization to access emergency situations anywhere in Council. Space Vilnara watched the vote tallies appear on the displays and felt something loosen in her chest. Relief. Humans wouldn't be restricted, wouldn't be held back. They would be allowed to do what they did best: save people. After the session ended, Velnara found messages waiting from Jiho and the other humans from the station. They had watched the proceedings and wanted to congratulate her. Jiho's message was simple. "You didn't have to do that. But thank you." Velnara smiled as she read it. Humans always said things like that. You didn't have to. As if helping others was optional. As if saving lives was something you could choose not to do. Maybe that was the real difference between humans and everyone else. For humans, helping wasn't optional. It was essential. It was who they were. 5 years later, Velnara stood outside the training facility on Valora 7 and watched students practice cold weather rescue techniques. The facility had become one of the galaxy's premier survival training centers. Beings from dozens of species came here to learn how to save lives in extreme conditions. Jiho was inside teaching a class. He walked with a slight limp now, the result of his lost toes, but he moved with confidence. His students, both human and alien, listened with complete attention as he demonstrated proper emergency procedures. Velnara was the assistant director of the facility. She helped design the curriculum, taught xenobiology, and made sure every student understood the science behind survival. It was good work. Important work. Work that would save lives across the galaxy. Kree came running up, now 8 cycles old and full of energy. His shell had grown strong and beautiful. The scars from his fractures completely faded. "Mother, the warm one says I can try the simulation today." The big one with the blizzard. "You're sure you're ready?" Velnara asked, though she knew the answer. Kree had been preparing for this for months. "I'm ready," Kree said with certainty. "I want to learn. I want to help people like the warm one helped me." Velnara watched her son run back inside, heading toward Jiho and the other instructors. Kree wanted to be a rescue worker. It was impossible, really. Thornali physiology wasn't suited for extreme rescue work. But Kree was determined, and the humans at the facility were already designing specialized equipment that might make it possible. Because that was what humans did. They saw a problem and they solved it. They saw someone with a dream and they helped make it real. On the wall beside the entrance, a plaque hung in a place of honor. It was